Hello everyone, it's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Mariah Afolabi Brown and it's Christmas month. Yes. And we have the Christmassy going on.
It's the season to be jolly. La 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 la.
Yeah. Serious. How you doing? How you doing, Tokwe? How was your weekend?
Weekend was eventful. It was a very busy weekend and I spent last night sleeping on the bed in the hospital with my son.
Aww.
Who came back from my mom's place like he was about to faint. So we had to rush him to the hospital. My husband handled that because I was with a client and he had vomited a lot. So they said it was infection. He kept vomiting and he didn't have any strength. So he was on drip. We slept together, but this morning he's had a bit of energy. The regular drinks that we usually give babies when they're not feeling fine. Let me not mention the brand. Okay. But I gave it to him, he drank it. So he's talking because it was really scary. I try not to think of negative things, but I was extremely scared that Jesus Christ, what could be happening and all of that, you know. But
I know how
thankfully,
thank God.
Thankfully, we're better today, and so after the show, I'll go check on him again.
Okay, good.
Nima, pray for quick recovery.
Amen.
I'm good. I slept throughout the weekend. You know, I'm on a band, so I've not been attending any of the events I've been scheduled to. My apologies for the one that happened yesterday. I really wished I was there. But Nima is just Yawule for now. And I'm doing some investigation.
Yes. We're also sorry we couldn't make Friday. Yes, we're supposed to be at Lasso. What's our plan? A lot of things just happened on that day.
A lot of things happened on Friday. We couldn't make it to
apologies. I will
Lasso.
call them and we'll organize another time where we can actually all go. So sincerely apologize to the students that plan to receive us at Lasso on Friday. Our sincere apologies. A lot of things came up that were so difficult to make our time, but we will come over. Just you have invited us, we'll come. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Gajulu.
I'm tired from the weekend. I had a very hectic, loving, interesting weekend.
I was on your status, just watching status.
What happened? Please
first of all, I planned with Oga, so you follow me for my event, I follow you for yours. Okay. So I did my BC and Brains book club event at the JTT Park. Then I followed him to the island. We did this Barracuda beach with his colleagues, and it was so much fun. But when I got to the JTT Park, I wanted to, I didn't come with a mats rather, so I wanted to stay at the bar and eat, but the lady in charge was like, no, you're not supposed to eat here except you buy our food, because when people want to buy food they don't see spaces anymore, so we don't give people. She now looked at me like, I just recognized you. Chicken and chips on the house. So I want to say thank you.
Oh my goodness, that's good.
Lamide flavor food. She was so amazing. She's actually very tall. I had to stand beside her like you're tall.
As in, she's
Lamide flavor foods. I'm coming for my own chicken and chips.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Pleasant person.
Yeah, weekend was nice for me.
I saw Momo's video.
Yes, we're in church.
You just want Momo to trend again,
No, we went to church
Momo
together. What happened was that, in church, Thanksgiving, I did dance. So I didn't realize now, unfortunately, because she came a bit late. So she was sitting by herself. She didn't know that Thanksgiving, you stand up and dance around. So I had to go and meet her where she was and tell her to get up. And I took her, all the way to the front. She was there dancing. Everyone wondered, okay, this year, over 90. And she was dancing. And she had fun in church on Sunday. Was there. So it was that joy that God us.
Tap into that grace. So.
I tap into it too.
Yeah, so when I see her every day, I pray for her. She's strong. Like, she's not even in...
She's not
yet at the departure lounge. You know how people
She's not ready to depart.
She's not ready to depart.
Oh my goodness, that's a good life.
She's still hanging out. That one is just amazing, but it's so good to have her around. All right, so we're going to go on a break, but first, we have a news mention. Today is United Nations International Day for the abolition of slavery. Its aim is to eradicate contemporary forms of slavery, such as trafficking, sexual exploitation, child abuse, using children as for labor. Those are all parts of
one major one that's close
slavery.
to us, that is modern-day slavery, is having underage children as your maid.
It's really sad.
Don't use underage children. It is slavery.
Yeah.
And then the cases of brutalizing them, beating them in the name of I'm trying to train them is wrong. This is a part of modern day slavery, and we see it every day. I think that we should take ownership and start talking to our neighbors, because we will know someone, even if we're modern day, you know someone that is having.
And talk about another modern day slavery is the slavery of the mind. We haven't really
enlightened
ourselves or even emancipated ourselves from that colonial thinking. So we still have that. We don't teach our children our native. In fact, my house now is once you enter, we're speaking Yoruba. Because children won't speak.
It's easier for you because both parents speak Yoruba.
Yeah,
we don't speak the same language
That's
in my
true.
house, so we do Pidgin instead.
Okay,
Pidgin
is also good, yeah.
But we must appreciate what we have.
My son was speaking Pidgin, and one of the help wanted to correct. No, don't say that.
It's okay. I'm an advocate for this, but it's not been easy. Myself and my husband speak the same language at home. My son recently is speaking a different form of English. I'm struggling, I'm telling you.
In fact, I'm abolishing English totally because they will learn English in school. My husband speaks better than I am. And he all his life, said for the first 8 years, it was Yoruba he was speaking. And he learned English in school. And me, I'm here speaking all the English, and his English is so much better than mine.
My daughter speaks Yoruba very well now. She speaks Yoruba from
That's good. So it's just
my
about
son understands
local
Yoruba
knowledge,
and Ijebu,
so that
but my own language at home
have.
is strange to them.
Anyway,
just keep
it's
looking.
Monday. Let's not divert our conversation. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll breeze through. It's December. We'll go through the front pages of the newspaper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, we're going to start with the nation, what's happening in our country. Bank customers to present tax card from next month. Aisha Buhari's rebuke, NGF defense governors. November's 314 billion naira gain reduces investors' loss to 1.6 trillion naira. Oyo Algon PDP clash over councils. 5 killed in Lagos Ibadan night accident. Ian Acho's goal sinks Everton. Right. So this major headline, who has the major headline or which story? The accident. Let's start with the accident.
Okay. So there was an accident that happened on Saturday at the Shagamu Express Road in Ogun State, and it involved a Toyota and a bus, which about 14 persons were involved altogether. 5 persons died immediately, and the rest are in the hospital. So they were taken to this Olabisi Onabanjo hospital and the mortuary for those ones that are dead. So they are saying that one of the causes of the accident was the overspeeding, and so far so good. They've been able to clear the obstruction on the road. The FROSC commander is also saying that those who have traveled that route should go to the office to check for their relatives.
Really sad.
We commiserate with them.
Let's move on to the Punch. 5 months after inauguration, senators yet to set up constituency offices. Picture here, fire destroys 30 shops, goods in Lagos market. We are no longer safe following land grabbers' threats, says sexagenarian couple. I spent 12 years in jail, lost my parents, but achieved my dream, says the lawyer. Millions of Nigerians at risk of heat waves, says report. Olanipe Kunsani opposed social media hate speech bill. Dangote Oil Refinery's key equipment arrives from China. January 12th date for illegal aliens deportation stands, says FG. And Justice Foreign Ministry's budget, 5.6 billion naira for constituency projects.
So I have 2 quick stories.
Fire.
No, the lawyer first. Okay. So this lawyer was called to bar. His name is Akpogene Edeno. He served 10 years imprisonment and he was acquitted. What happened was his friend committed murder, and his name was mentioned, and he went voluntarily to the police station to say that I wasn't involved, I wasn't even in the vicinity of what happened, and they detained him, took him to court, and in that process he lost his father, in the process he lost his mother, and finally he got acquitted. He had nothing to do with the murder but spent 10 years. Good news, though, was that while he was in prison, he went to change his course from engineering into law and decided to study law extensively, and now is a qualified lawyer. So that's but we need to sanitize our judiciary system to ensure that we don't keep people in prison when they are innocent. It's really sad.
If I in Lagos State, 30 shops again. These things happen almost every time in Lagos State.
This one happened on Sunday. So it started from the markets in Owode Oniri. Yes, so it started in the middle of the night, I think about 9, I'm not sure of the time right now, but then they said it started from a metal shop and it was spreading. So, but it wasn't caused by electricity because they've not had lights in that market since 2017. So that's definitely ruled out as one of the causes of the fire.
We
But then they had to quickly call.
It's a metal where they scavenge old cars and sell car parts.
Yes.
So most likely maybe the operation of gas or anything could have sparked
up the fire. But
Nigerians now should also try to be more careful.
Yeah.
About
This couple, the old couple, I mean, I tried to read their story. They've been disturbed by land grabbers in that neighborhood, and it seems as though the son of the one of the family people they bought the land from, there's a family, I can't remember the name of the family, but actually they bought the land, they have property of the possession of the land, and they've been using the land as parking for their event space, which they built somewhere with it, like an event center. Okay. But now these land grabbers have come, they took over that land,
because it's free.
They started building on it, and they tried to get the police involved, tried to get even the ballet in the community involved. They said it's a civil matter, they should go and handle it.
Exactly.
And so they're asking for, I mean, their video went viral, and now the Punch has done a report on them, and I hope they can get justice, because they're now under threat, because now they're moving from different place to place. They can't stay in their neighborhood anymore because they're scared of these land grabbers.
At the point when their life is threatened, of course, it's criminal. Police has to do something for them. But when their lands, the grabbing of their lands, Tokwe has it. I think they should just go to
headlines. So yes, no, not constituency project, constituency office. Oh. So for every senator, they're supposed to have an office in their constituency where constituents can interact with them. And what Punch discovered is that most of our senators do not have a constituency office yet set up. They found out from those in entire Castina, every state has 3 senators. Yes. Most of them just have one already set up, or those that had been in government before continued with the old one, but new senators haven't set up their office. Amosu in Ogun State hasn't set up his own or constituency office yet. Even those that set up are not going to the offices. And they say they're not going there because whenever they get to their office, they get bills. People say, help me pay hospital bills, pay school fees. And so they're not, they get this avalanche of needs that they just refer not to come to the constituency office. So I'm wondering, why are they getting this constituency allowance? They have money on a monthly basis to maintain these offices. What is it meant for?
Yeah, but you can also understand where they're coming from, because I mean, I know my brother used to be in government, and he knows that in a day you enter, everybody just coming to you for issues. My father just died, my mother just died, and my child wants to get into school. So they have bills, so they have to find mechanisms in ensuring that these things are diverted.
I would like to see the office of my senator, just to tell him that, you know, that the operation of commercialization is killing us.
On our CMD road, one was there for many years. How many times have you gone there? There was one right just next to TVC office. How many times have you and I been there? We've not been there now.
I don't know.
I think it's in Ikeja. Yayi's office is in Ikeja.
People will keep asking them for help.
Moving on to Daily Sun very quickly. Black Sunday in Ogun, in Lagos. Okorocha hits back at Ihioda. Ihedioha, sorry, excuse me. Babcock Varsity student emerges overall best in bar exams. Restructuring Afenifere Middle Belt Forum defense stance. LG autonomy, Senate moves against governors. Okay, who has the Babcock story? Nobody has that story. Okay, the major headline, Black Sunday. You could do the report of that on your Instagram page that went viral. Okay. Tell us what happened in Lagos State.
Which of the Black Sunday? No, this one is the accident I took in
in
the Nation.
I was thinking Black Friday, my head. No, not Black Friday. Black Friday. Okay, yes, what happened?
For the Black Friday?
The Black Sunday.
Black Sunday. Did you read that?
That's what I talked about in the Nation.
Multiple accidents that took place.
Any story in Daily Sun?
The Sun, no. We got the paper late.
Babcock, let's try. Somebody should read that Babcock. Let's see what happened. I'm really interested in that story. Let's move on very quickly to Vanguard. Private sector rejects finance bill 2019, petitions Buhari. Navy, police clash over traffic control in Apapa. That's Vanguard. Compelled DSS to release Shore, Bakari Falana tells Malami. Naira depreciates as turnover rises in 4x. And Editors Guild condemned dictatorial actions against media. Let's take the major headlines.
Yeah. So it's the same one in the Nation. And the tax bill that the president proposed along with the 2020 budget to the Senate that is being deliberated already is the private sector. That's the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and the Lagos State Chamber.
Organized private sector, yeah.
Yes, are already opposing it. They are saying that you need to put more pressure on the normal average Nigerian, because this tax net is simply just, you know, creating more taxes and creating more hardship on the already paying tax, already paying Nigerians who pay their tax. What they would advise is, of course, that it should be widened to catch those people who are supposed to be paying, who are not paying taxes, and that's what they're proposing. They've discussed the issue of the VAT increase. Of course, they welcome the the exclusion of the small businesses, but then even the small business owners also joined in protesting that these taxes will be...
They appreciated the 25 billion
increasing.
Yeah.
And along with it, they're asking that, business owners who have accounts will have to start to present tax cards to operate their accounts in the banks. So that, of course, also, is not a well thought through plan. Yeah. So they've written out their petition, clearly written to the president on the areas that they think should be amended in that bill. I think it should be welcome. It should be looked into. Whoever, if there's a committee that is doing this, should consider it.
Not so much of the business owners. Bank customers generally should have a tax ID number. You know how you go into any country, they'll ask you for your social security number. So we should have some kind of identification.
Security number. We have plenty numbers. We have BVN number. We have the driver's license. Then we have an identification NIMS.
Yes, NIMS.
NIM number that we all have. So what is the tax for?
Already with the BVN, people have issues accessing their monies in the bank.
So I want to take Babcock.
Babcock, good news. So Mayawa Mushbao Abiru graduated as the best overall student in 2019 and is from Babcock University. Also, Babcock University is announcing that they ranked number 3 in producing the highest number of students with first class in law. So good news from them because we had a bit of...
Yes, we need that good news from Babcock because of the drama that was happening. But listen, Babcock should calm down. That drama that happened doesn't put you in a bad light.
Yeah, also young people. Lagosians to drink water. The Meteorology Society of Nigeria has announced that we're going to experience heat wave. Major one, even coastal region around the country. So hydrate yourself is very, being hydrated is very important. As we're getting to the Harmattan, the heat is increasing and we need to drink water.
Loads of water. Okay, unfortunately, that's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, we discuss our lineup topics. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So according to reports that we read, President Muhammadu Buhari has forwarded a request to the Senate to reconsider and approve the federal government 2016 to 2018 external borrowing plan. The loan, he said, is to finance key infrastructural projects across the country between 2016 and 2018. Now, Nigerians have reacted since last week on this matter. I would like to hear your thoughts on it. You can call us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. So when people hear, oh, we're getting more loans, suddenly everybody goes up in storms and screaming, wow, we're getting into more debt. But IMF has repeatedly reminded us that we should tread carefully. The federal government, even the Minister of Finance, has repeatedly told us that we've not reached that threshold, we've not reached that critical state where we can't borrow. So why are we still getting very uncomfortable with this issue of getting loans? But
because we remember what happened under the military regime, and we remembered how Obasanjo came in, and the former president, through some policies, was able to wipe our debts. And it brought a huge relief for Nigerians to know that, oh, Nigeria for once were debt-free. Now, the economists will say that no wealthy nation is debt-free. Everybody borrows to run their business. What most Nigerians are concerned about is that when this money gets disbursed, does it get down to who it's meant to get to? Does it do what it's meant to do? So out of the 39 projects that was approved, that was requested for then during the last administration, under the last Senate, they approved for 2 main projects, which is 4 states in the north getting funding and Northeast getting funding for their, the 4 states insurgency crisis and the China Exim assistance for Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. So my thought would be that before we present the remaining, we should see what has been done with what has been approved before.
I tried to support the president borrowing, but what I've been reading has been heartbreaking. So according to the chairperson, what's it called, the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce, the president of the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce, the chairperson of the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce, that's Mr. Muda Yusuf, this 2020 budget has a provision for 2 trillion for debt servicing. That's the allocation for debt servicing in this budget. And the entire capital budget for this is 2.9. So we're using over 70% to service debt already. If we are bringing that amount and we'll still have to service that debt till we finish paying, I think when we have to service already with 70%, how many percent we could take grow the country? We should rethink this thing.
The strategy.
Yes, we should. And I expect that the finance minister will be talking like this, because the president was responding this morning in the papers and saying that people that are saying this are just worrying Nigerians, they're just looking for trouble. That, you know, and he counted that how important this amount is to concluding projects in power, agriculture, and every other thing. But if already we have to spend 70% of whatever is budgeted this year for capital allocation on servicing debt, we should worry.
Yeah, but they were very specific that this approximately 30 billion is for certain projects. So why are we still worrying about it being used for recurrent?
Okay, so the thing for me, first of all, is we have a rising debt profile, which everybody is worried about. And the question is, are we able to service our debt at the same time, you know, promote the development of our nation hand in hand? So it's something that the economists, I believe, will have to look into. Now, the presidency has said that they are going to have different projects handled with this money, 30 billion that they're about to borrow, which is, they mentioned education, infrastructure,
rails, power.
They didn't mention manufacturing, they mentioned farming and all of that, agriculture. So the question for me is, though he said that the Minister of Finance will be able to give us the proper, you know, breakdown of how the monies will be spent, but I would have, you know, waited to see what they are going to break it down into. So if you say farming, what aspect of farming are we looking into, so that tomorrow we can hold you accountable to what you said you want to do?
Something extremely important is you are getting more money, but how are you servicing the one? Because remember they told us they were supposed to open that tax net, but unfortunately we are still not getting as much money because we had initially budgeted.
Where I was going. When the finance minister was responding to our not having a debt problem, we have a revenue problem.
Yes.
That was when they proposed this tax bill.
Yes.
And instead of the tax bill to come and capture and expand its net and capture those taxes that we've not been paying, is increasing the load on Nigerians. And of course, like all the private sector people are talking about, it's going to make life more difficult for the already paying Nigerians.
Are we not also compounding issue? Because some of us are already rejecting the idea of showing your tax ID, because they're suggesting they're suggesting show your tax ID when it comes to the bank, because they're trying to know how many people are actually paying taxes.
So the thing is, we're not rejecting tax ID. The fact is, the process of getting the tax ID is what they should look into first.
48 hours you get your tax ID. It's free. I have mine. It's free, and you get it within 48 hours. So, let me take this call that I come to you. Good morning, are you there?
For your business.
No business. Good morning, are you there? Thanks for calling.
Please, this is an economy matter. It is an open secret that General Muhammad Buhari came and made a battered economy, a vandalized economy. Quite okay. But we made money in this government. A huge amount of revenue. And despite that huge amount of revenue, still the ministers, the heirs of the president, are still deceiving this innocent man by deceiving him to go and take loans. I don't see any justification for taking loans while we are making much more improvement in forms of revenue. That is one thing. And this Minister of Finance and Fowler of Federal Revenue are not helping Buhari. Anytime Buhari landed a query to these people, they will turn to us. Instead of them to defend whatever is happening. What do you want to ask a question?
Okay, thank you very much. He's saying that we have money. Others are saying we don't have money.
The truth is we don't actually have money. Our budgets, since the last time we had Theresa May saying that our budget was ambitious, we've never been able to fund our budget comprehensively. Right. So what we now do is we'll take a little loan, and they were not properly fulfilling the budget. I think that we do need this infrastructure. Nigeria needs the infrastructure. We need to upgrade it because it would encourage commerce. By the time we have a rail system running through from Lagos all the way to the north, our Greek products will come to the south easily. These are necessary things. But Nigerians have lost trust in the system. We've been hearing these things over and over again. They tell us, cynical. Yeah, so it's the cynicism that is making us not trust. We're looking at it like, Oh yeah, talk another one. You've told us you borrow money. This, our former president, Obasanjo, spent hundreds of millions of naira in the on the power sector, and we don't have power. So why should we now suddenly feel like this almost 30 billion is going to come and now solve the major problems we have? So is that cynicism that we're trying to deal with?
It's good that we're getting this thoughts from Nigerians. I'd like to go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring in an expert who can give us the expert angle on this matter that help us understand the necessary if this is necessary in the first place or it's not necessary. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So in continuation of our hot topic, we have a renowned financial scholar and analyst. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele will join the ladies to share his expertise on this $30 billion loan. He will also be analyzing countries' rising debt profile. Should we be worried or not? You can join the conversation on 070-80668014. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So you've heard our views and some of our callers' views on, obviously, many people are really cynical, they're skeptical. They feel that this move might further put us in debt. As a financial sector analyst, could you give us your viewpoint on this move by the president to loan another $30 billion?
Yeah, thank you very much. Generally, borrowing is not a bad thing.
Okay.
We only need to be more concerned about why we're borrowing. So if you think about many countries around the world have very high level of borrowing. Dubai, for example, where many Nigerians like to go, they develop their economy essentially on borrowing. But the good thing is that you have to borrow in a way that the projects are self-financing. So you shouldn't ask the people, the taxpayers, to pay back the loan. It should be that the loan is taking care of itself. Now, the reason why Nigerians are skeptical, which I do understand, is because of the past. So government has not been able to demonstrate sufficiently that it can be trusted. And when you're borrowing, really, what you're doing is you're taking money of tomorrow and you're spending it today. You're taking money from our children, the future generation, and we're spending it now. The question would then be, what we are spending it on, is it something that will benefit them? Are we spending it on ourselves by way of recurrent expenditure, social services, and all of that? So our debt profile has risen by almost 100% over the past 4 to 5 years. In 2014, we had about just 12 trillion naira in debt. Now is around 24 trillion. That's over $80 billion. I do know, and you mentioned this earlier on, you know, the IMF will tell you your debt to GDP ratio is not one of the highest in the world. But then I call it either the incomplete story or the single story. So one of the countries in the world that has the highest debt to GDP ratio is Japan, over 200%. But interestingly, Japan borrows at negative interest rates. So what actually means is when Japan borrows $1 million, they pay less than $1 million back. So you cannot be comparing Nigeria with other countries where even when they're not borrowing at negative interest rates, they're borrowing at very small, little, low interest rates. When Nigeria borrows, we borrow at double digits. So which means the cost of funding our borrowing, it's unsustainable. That is why for last year, 2018, the federal government spent 54% of its revenue just servicing debt. One thing that all Nigerians need to be aware of is in terms of priority for any country in the world, in terms of how you spend, it's not even your recurrent expenditure, it's interest. Number one thing, in any country that defaults in paying interest is going to kill the economy. So priority number one for government is we have to continue to service our debts. So which takes me to the next important point. So beyond knowing why we are borrowing, and the details have to be on point, which projects, how viable are they? When are we going to start? When will we complete them? Not that you leave project ongoing for 15 years. Once that has been done, you have to ensure that the terms are also favorable. I do not expect us to borrow now and have to start servicing them immediately. Because if we are planning to do a project that will last 10 years, we should have a moratorium, i.e., the tenure of the loan and the term says you don't have to pay anything until 10 years. Which means when the project starts providing returns, we use that returns to pay back. Now, Nigerians
you think we'll be able to make this kind of negotiations? Are you saying that we're not making this kind of
The
negotiations?
challenge for me, that's what I want to ask, is that we don't know the terms of our loans. We actually have no idea of the ones we've taken. It's not in the public domain. So it's not like we have that information that we can boldly say that we're not paying back this debt. And that's one of the things I started with, was saying that everybody was celebrating because Obasanjo cleared off what was ongoing, which was accumulated far before he came into power. And some of the things we are accumulating now, even if they give us a 10-year moratorium, our children will be paying back those debts. It's the ratio of, do we have the train that this money was meant to build? We took a lot of funds to for the power project under Obasanjo. Do we have the power that money was meant to give us? So we will pay back the funds for all these projects, and yet we don't have the projects.
Yeah. You know, the other important point actually is that I like the way you addressed it, which is the concern for everyone, including myself. Is if you think about it, even countries where they have a lot of money, Nigeria is not one of them. Nigeria is a very poor country by every standard, by every benchmark, including oil revenue. Given that we're so poor as a country, you should then categorize your infrastructure into different broad categories. Okay. The ones that are commercially viable, electricity, ports, rail. These ones, you don't need to spend a naira as government. Create the right environment and private sector will spend trillions of dollars. They will do a fantastic job, they will make money, and the project will be top-notch.
We have the issue they have in the Eastern Africa, where China has taken ownership of the ports. And they own it. No, they own it because the government defaulted in paying back China. So China now owns the ports.
No, my point is that government shouldn't even be the one to borrow. And if you have examples of where, private sector activities have gone wrong, it's not private sector, it's the process for doing it. We did telecommunication in Nigeria, it went well. We did power sector, it did not go well. So it's how you do it.
So it's not like we've not attempted this option that you're giving. Because in 2012, when we signed with this Chinese company, for the Mambila Power Project, we totally just created an environment for them. See, this is Mambila, do what you want. Nigeria did not say we are borrowing this amount, X amount of money, come in with this amount, and they gave us about $35-something billion to do that power project. But 2012, 2019, Mambila is, our own head of news here covered Mambila and...
Yeah, okay, so the point is that that's just one out of the moving parts. If you want private sector to be involved in anything, the entire value chain and the process around it has to be appropriate. Power is still being regulated. If the pricing is regulated, even if you give it to private sector, it's not going to work.
They've not even created the plant.
Currently, we have over $17 trillion of investable funds around the world, attracting either 0% return or negative returns. So which means if you create the right environment, those money will flow into Nigeria. So let them use those private sector money to fund capital projects that are viable. So that the little money that government has will then go into social infrastructure, human capital development. That is the model that I think will work for Nigeria.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that other countries, like you just said now, borrow at almost zero interest, and we borrow at double.
Yeah.
So what's responsible for that? And is there any way we can remedy that so that we borrow well and we are not under pressure of interests?
Yeah. So unfortunately in life, so people who don't need things are the ones who are offered. Yeah, exactly. So when you're rich, the banks, for example, want to even give you more loan at very low rates. When you're poor and you're struggling, they don't want to give you. That is the story of Nigeria. Nigeria's revenue profile is so low, it can't even cover our interest and recurrent. So anybody you want to borrow from is worried that you may not be able to pay back. But because you're a country, you can print notes. So they still loan us, but the interest rates are very high. On top of that, Nigeria will make it tax-free. So because of this accumulation of debt and high rate of borrowing, our cost of servicing debt is not sustainable, and we have to think different. I would like the National Assembly to be more deliberate and be very, very meticulous. This is not something to do in a hurry.
Yeah.
If the projects are not viable, don't approve it and involve Nigerians in that process.
Issue of viability, because I sometimes feel as if Nigerians were the cause of our own problems. And maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's the approach the government is taking. For example, you said something about power, roads are important infrastructures we need to that can actually generate their own revenue. Now, if the government says they're going to build a toll and ask Nigerians to pay, we'll reject it. But we pay. If what's his name, Discos are complaining that the cost the cost they're incurring just to give us power in itself is a loss to them, such that they're not making any revenue from what we pay, what they're paying. When you actually increase the tariff, we complained. So the point is that by the textbook version, if we have this power, roads, rail infrastructure, it will generate. But the Nigerians that we have would not pay for those roads.
Yeah,
they won't pay for the...
Not exactly. Okay. So here's the thing, the missing link is the trust. So you have to start from the low-hanging fruit. So today, Nigerians are queuing up to get into the train from Abuja to Kaduna, and they're paying. It's not free, they're willing to pay.
Right.
So you start with those ones they're willing to pay for.
Right.
Electricity is one of it, rail is one of it, port is one of it. Business people are queuing up to pay at the port, just so you can get things cleared very quickly.
Right. When
you start with those, you build trust and you show the results. So next time when you want to build the road and you want to toll it, they now have a basis to trust you.
Right.
We can't trust you now, so we don't want anything.
So I have a twofold question.
Yeah.
I know that one of the challenges we have, and the challenges countries, other business interests would have with Nigeria, is the fact that we have policy fluctuation on a consistent basis. So you can't trust what policy would come up tomorrow and how it will impact on your business, and you can't invest in such a risky environment. How do you think the government can address that? Because we are having a lot of new policies being new initiatives, new policies to combat the lack of money, and that is also sending wrong signals to foreign investors that this is an unstable environment to bring in their money. One. Number two, what would you call the right environment that would make us attract because you keep saying that, oh, investors will not come to, they are looking at, there are things they're looking at. What would the government do that will give us that will give the right body language to attract the right investments into the country?
Yeah, so a number of very important points. One is you need what you call goal alignment. So you need to align the goals of different arms and agencies of government so that when you speak, the direction is clear. Then you need policy coordination. So you have to also coordinate what you're doing. And most importantly, you need a framework that will make it sustainable. One of the things I've been proposing, for example, is for the National Assembly to say, by the way, capital expenditure is not something you do in 3 months or 4 months or 1 year. If you're going to build a bridge or a highway, maybe it's 3-4 years project. Why don't you approve the budget for the entire project now, so we don't have to go to you every year and be going back and forth. And when the ships are down, you spend money on recurrent and you jettison the capital expenditure. Our plan is, approve it for 10 years. So that if you have to go to the National Assembly, let it be variations alone. The reason why, I said about $17 trillion around the world are being invested in negative or zero return is because of the certainty. At least you're certain you're going to lose 1 naira, so you go for it. We cannot provide 100% certainty, but let's take away the uncertainties that are self-inflicted.
Okay.
So the way to do that is the way you signal to the investing community and give them the assurance that this is what you're going to do. It will take time again to build that trust because you've said some things in the past, you did not abide by them.
I'm sorry, I have to pause you for a quick second. I'd like you to hold it for a while. Good morning, are you there, sir?
Mr. Morayo, good morning.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yes, please, Morayo, you see, I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very keen with your guest statement.
Right.
You see, I will even, appeal if your guest can even talk to our president, in giving him this kind of advice. Because it's like at times I look at our president that whether he does not even have a foreign minister because he continues to travel up and down, But the bottom line of what your guest said is the genuinity of borrowing, because it has been happening in the past. Most of the money borrowed, they didn't even finish the project. It continued to appreciate, and that is what is happening. And then the money will disappear. You know, and it become it become a kind of difficulty, for next government to pay. That is number one. You know, whether the president will take it, this kind of money supposed to advise the president. Then, and lastly, on one of your topics here, Mr. Morayo, good enough, NEMA is there. The lacuna within our prosecuting system, our justice system, in terms of prosecution, because it's worrisome. Because everything is within the police authority. If a policeman can decide to jail you if he wanted, you know, it is a statement that the judge will decide. So NEMA, you see, there's a loophole in our judicial system.
Right.
And on the other hand, on meteorological services.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, because I know that we have this exchange rate risk, whereby our currency depreciates over and over. How do you think that affects our ability to service our debt, and what do you think we can do to salvage it?
Yeah, so whenever you borrow in a foreign currency, you take a risk. If everything goes well and your currency is stable, then you're fine. Otherwise, you may find that the rate of servicing it is even higher than if you had borrowed in Naira. Yeah, which has been our story. But I do think that if you go back to the principle number one, which is invest this money in projects that are self-funding. If the project are self-funding, even if Naira devalues, the project will still be self-funding, yeah, because it just converts again and use the current rate to be able to do it. So that's the fundamental requirement.
Okay, so there's a tweet I would like to add this question to. Uto also says, how convinced can you borrow with 40.5 million foreign reserve in October 2019? What is the money to be borrowed meant for? What does it make economic sense to borrow and waste? Other countries borrow and impact is seen. Now he's addressing the issue, the fact that we have an external reserve or foreign reserve. Why do we need to borrow with a foreign reserve that you know is our money? Why not just take what we have and focus on the projects that we have, which is what some Nigerians are saying, and it makes sense to them. Yeah. You have money and you're borrowing money.
Yeah. Foreign reserve is not a very simple thing to explain. So the fact that you have $40.5 billion in foreign reserve does not mean that the money is there.
Not paper money.
Some of it is paper money. So for example, when you sell crude oil, yeah, and let's say you collect $1 billion. So what you do, because you don't spend dollars in Nigeria, you give the dollars to the CBN will print Naira equivalent and share it out. So really that money is gone. Some of it is money we have, but not all of it is money we can withdraw and use to start building roads. And and plus you also need that reserve to be able to guarantee the rest of the world that whenever your people, because it's not just government, your private sector, your traders, your investors, when they borrow or they open letter of credit, that serves as a guarantee that they can pay back. Gotcha. If you take that out, nobody's going to do business with us anymore. So,
okay, let me help me, because I would like to ask a very stupid question. A few years ago, our president went to China, and everybody got excited about this fact that we can be trading and transacting in one. What was their currency?
Yeah.
In yen, right?
Yeah.
So everybody was excited about that. Please tell me what happened with that entire transaction. Where are we, if you know? Because I thought suddenly we don't have to deal in dollars anymore. Yeah. That would make it easier for our businesses to actually get loans. What's going on with that?
Yeah, a lot of what you see in government is most times, politics. So you go there because there's supposed to be a meeting, you arrange a few things to say around it, you say it, and you move on. We do not have a structure in Nigeria to implement government policies effectively. So the whole idea around that was commendable, because I think either number one or number two country we import from, top, is China. Right. So which means Nigerians will look for Naira to buy dollars, to pay Chinese, and Chinese will convert the dollar to renminbi. So we say, why are we putting a currency in between? Why don't we just pay you directly? But it's not been so straightforward, because I've seen Chinese investors who say, well, we have obligation in dollars and not the renminbi. So we also want to be paid in dollars, not renminbi. So, but I think ultimately, if we make that work, which means you should be able to go on the street and be able to buy renminbi. So I haven't seen that level of effectiveness, and I'm hoping that maybe the CBN and government will have a second look at this to soften our FX problems.
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, ooh, I wish I had to round this up though.
Yes.
I mean, before we round up, okay, now, so you've given us a lot of bad news, and there's some good news. But can we put it up in a nutshell? $30 billion is coming. What should Nigerians expect? Or give us some kind of hope with this $30 billion?
I think Nigerians should stop saying yes or no, and they should start asking questions. Okay. Nigerians should insist on having the details of everything we want to spend the $30 billion on, and query each of them, interrogate them until we get the right answers. Just saying we shouldn't borrow will not solve our problem. Saying we go ahead is scary. So the solution, in my view, is in between. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll discuss what every Nigerian is talking about, the anti-social media, anti-hate speech bill. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So since the introduction of these two highly controversial bills on the floor of the Senate, it has since gathered mixed reactions across the country, even nationwide protests. On this segment, we'll have a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst, Mr. Gabriel Uduafi, to share with us his thoughts on this anti-hate speech bill. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on. All right, so everybody and their grandmother has made a comment on this issue of the hate speech. And the senators have tried to repeatedly told us that, listen, it is still on the floor. It hasn't been approved totally. It's still going through the second reading. And they're still going to have a public hearing on this matter. So nothing is cast in stone. But Nigerians are taking the matter as if, it has been approved as a law. But in your view, and I'd like us to have also open the phone lines to our Nigerians to let us share their thoughts on this, why do you feel there was a need to have this, especially because Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act already somewhat captures the offenders of hate speech, and I think is also the other issues of libel and crimes on online. So why do you feel there was a need to bring up this issue of hate speech bill?
Well, my reading of the bill, both the social media bill and the hate speech prevention bill, is on the floor of the National Assembly, suggests to me that our National Assembly needs to do a lot more in terms of understanding our laws, each and every one of our laws, then prepare an agenda for dealing with the issues as they arise in our nationhood. But what I see, the feel I get is that, and that is expected, I'm not surprised, is that even our lawmakers do not even know what our laws are about. They don't know what the laws are. So they just come in, something occurs to them, a legislative aid goes online, pop up something, and presents it to a legislator. The legislator picks it up as if he's going to, have hit the jackpot. And you go to the floor of the National Assembly and you present a bill. For me, it is unnecessary, it is ridiculous, and it is heartbreaking that is coming from our National Assembly.
So the legal luminary, Wole Anikmekun, spoke about the same issue, sort of buttressing what you said, but in a different light. He emphasized the fact that the hate speech bill was counterproductive and a demonstration of lack of sensitivity to the plight of Nigerians. He said that everything about this law contravenes our fundamental human rights. And he said that we have more pressing needs as a nation that bills could address. We have other bills that could be raised to address. Do you agree with this assertion from him, or do you think that this hate speech issue is something we really, really need to deal with, because we've had this argument before without having a guest, and I was of the opinion that, yes, there's some things that our people have said that has heated up the polity, that might have led to people killing themselves and all of that, but is this the right thing to do now? And would it protect the nationhood, which is what they are saying? The politicians are saying that that's why they are doing it.
My perspective on this issue is not from the general perspective of, whether it's not what we need now. Everything that can make our life better is what we need at all time.
Okay.
So we need infrastructure, we need social investment, we also need human capital development. We also need, the greatest problem I see that Nigeria has is a human problem, because we are deficit in character, we are deficit in our relationship with our fellow men. And this has even been exacerbated by the advent of social media. Okay. So we no longer have respect, our manner of speech is distorted, our reasoning is distorted, people behave, even our children, if you're not careful at home, you see that a child that you gave birth to drifts from what you have taught the child to be. And these are influence of social media, the films and all sorts that online content that children take a look at. I don't agree that we don't need a regulation as to how social media is to run. Okay. I disagree with the content of the social media bill in view of the existing laws. Okay. My preferred approach would have been, let us look at the Cybercrime Act. What has it provided for? Is there room to now amend that Cyber Act that was passed in 2015 to include issues that were not captured where that act was passed?
Let me take this call, then I'll come to you, Nima. Thanks for calling. Are you there?
Yeah.
Morning. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Am I right onto your view?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. This is Chidi Samuel.
Hello, Chidi. Go ahead, Chidi. Okay, we lost that call. Yes, Nima, go ahead.
Okay, so while we were debating this on the show, I was the one who had to hold brief for government and the people who proposed this bill. So I had to quickly read it. And it's simply saying speech against people along race, religion, ethnic origin, national origin, sex, disability, and all that. That's what hate speech meant. And I checked out countries that had laws against hate speech. Nigeria is not even among them. The US of A, the Belgium, the Australia, the Austria, all those big countries that I would love to mention. So I felt that Nigerians are just against this bill for the consequence of the hate speech itself, so which, of course, is a proposal for death sentence. No Nigerian would say no to the law, but, you know, the consequence that was put to it, which is the death penalty. Do you agree that we need this law with the contents of the law as it is, or that, you know, we do not need it because, you know, Nigeria, that's not the problem that we have right now? Because a lot of people are saying, that's not our problem, that's not our problem.
To add to, what Nima is saying, because remember the issue of herdsmen. We kept saying that, oh, it's this specific ethnic group.
Yes,
and people think that the government kept saying, no, there were foreigners coming in. So these things aggravated the polity at the time. So whether we like it or not, there was a need. The senator saw something.
Let me even put it in scenario. So the Fulani people came out and put an ultimatum on the amount of days for stay for another ethnic group in their land. That was leading to a lot of, that was hate speech in the clearest of terms. But there was no consequence in the sense that what we had on ground, in names of laws that we had on ground, was not strong enough for such a thing for any enforcement. In the end, if we even had to get them to court, we might not have consequence for what they've done. So now that we've proposed it, and Nigerians just wake up one morning and night and say, no, that's not what we want now. That's not the law we need now. Is there a time? Or should we just throw this law away? What exactly do we want?
We can't throw away the baby with the bathwater. I would need a regulation of our communication on all social media platforms. If you look at these days, a lot of decent people are withdrawing from the social media space because what goes on there is horrible, to say the least, to be mild at all. If you also look at your various WhatsApp group, there's always this consistent battle about what should be fed onto those platforms. Even in churches, I have had to fight my members. I said, look, this is not the value that we stand for. And when you raise that voice, the war turns against you. You turn the black sheep. So I think we do need the social media. I have looked at it and I've categorized it into 3 parts. First of all is the first sections 3 to 9 that defines the offenses. The last part is the other part that creates the commission, National Commission for the Control or Prevention of Hate Speech. So first of all, I don't think that our bureaucracy is already too tight. So we do not need another agency just to focus on hate speech. Yeah. I would have thought that the experts that are talking should be dissecting this law. Say, look, these are the parts that we need. Yeah. We don't need another commission. We have too many commissions. Exactly. The burden for us carrying this various bodies is so.
Okay, let me take this call. It's been holding for a while. Good morning. Are you there? Hello. I think we lost that call.
Yes. So I know that Nigeria is a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Can I conclude that part so that, because these are the technical issues. I know no, people are not talking about those technical issues. So we take away the commission, fine. The second part is the creation of the offenses. Like you rightly pointed out, sections 25 and 26 of the Cyber Crime Act have already made adequate provisions for the dissemination of any information that is capable of creating disaffection, hatred, spite, and all of that. It's not amongst the 3 major ethnic groups in this country alone. It comes down.
Let me sorry to cut you, but we have to appreciate the fact that the war that started the Rwandans, the Hutsis and the Tutsis, there wasn't social media then. So it's not until you express hate speech online before it becomes a crime. You can actually express hate speech verbally to community.
I am coming to that. Even in our churches meeting, you know, when you get into a church, people segregate. They naturally, this is an Igbo man, this is a Yoruba man, this is an Hausa man. We do it in our churches. We do it in our social clubs. We congregate at our cultural levels. When you now go to your village, it's now further broken down into kindred and all of that. We congregate, and those are opportunities where we express hatred, disdain for the opposite party. So what I'm saying is that those section 26 and 25 and 26 of the Cyber Crime Act, for me, it's sufficient. So that second part is dealt with. Now, the punishment section is what I have a problem with. How do you propose death sentence for somebody? Of course, they have tied it to, if you circulate such information that leads to the death of, that is already murder in our criminal code. So if I say anything or do anything or assist in doing anything that leads to the death of another person is murder under our laws. And it's still the same punishment for death by hanging. So I want our experts to be able to sit down and say, look, our lawmakers, you are not doing your job the right way. The man has proposed a bill which is already taken care of under our laws. So what we must do is that look at that Cyber Crime Act. Let us strengthen the capacity to implement that Cyber Crime Act.
So an amendment of what we already have rather than the fresh law?
I do not even see an amendment in my view. That thing is sufficient.
Implementation.
Yes, implementation. Then so that, because Section 42 of the Constitution is very clear, the source of discrimination, that freedom not to be discriminated against, either on the ground of sex, race, age, gender, is already provided for in the Constitution, which is a civil or constitutional issue.
I quickly want to allow me the comparison. So when we had kidnapping as a crime, the consequence wasn't death.
Yes.
Until kidnapping led to death of the hostage, the kidnapped. Before we saw the need to put death penalty to where the intention necessarily did not lead to the crime. So I kidnapped someone, I didn't intend the person to die, but my actions have led to his death. Yes. And now the lawmakers around the country, all the houses of assembly agree that this should be the consequence. Now, hate speech, when a person is charged for hate speech that has led to murder, that person has a chance of getting it reduced to manslaughter or even at some point getting escape under the laws we already have, under the ACJL and under the criminal code that we already have. And we know this as lawyers. But what these lawmakers have done is put it down in writing and say, where this is done, so that we have a clear consequence for it, and it leads to the loss of life of somebody. This will be the clear consequence. So I don't come out and say, I don't like Tope's tribe. They like Moni, Ijebu people. And then I make them just kill all of them. And then suddenly some people just go crazy, and then one person dies.
And I'll not claim manslaughter.
I will not claim manslaughter. I did not know. I did not tell them.
So there's a clear.
And then I get a good lawyer and I get out of it.
Yeah.
That possibility is there as lawyers, we know.
I want to make one point clear. I am not against the regulation of what we disseminate as information. For me, is a cardinal rule of operation. Whatever you would not take, don't give it to the other person.
Simple.
So then further, what I'm saying is that we can graduate from a point until we get to the next level, right? Death penalty in itself, the world over, there is a global move towards the abolition of death penalty. So we cannot be reintroducing death penalty into the corpus.
Let me take a quick call, then I'll go on a quick break. Hello, are you there, Mr. Jibola?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Marayo. You see this issue of this hate speech. Actually, to me, I don't think I oppose it.
Okay.
I bet I wanted to say that maybe if we can have that man on the program, you can invite him, maybe when he talk, because I've heard him some time ago speaking about this thing. And I think it's one of those things we need. Consider the way we talk, the way we do certain things. Even it may not apply to we, the people at the grassroots like this. It may be applied to those people, but like this. It may be applied to those people. But my only fear is the way the people will take it. Some people, some powerful people, the way they will take it against people that, okay, the person made an hate speech. That's the only thing. As the man, your visitor, your guest said, he said that it is human attitude, the human factor about the whole issue of this hate speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to quick break. When we come back, I'd like us to touch on the fact that people are complaining that the police may actually abuse this if this law is passed. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, Julia had a question.
Yes,
ahead,
so
please.
I know that Nigeria is a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that right guarantees freedom of expression, freedom of speech, using any form of media. Now, a lot of people have also said that this is more like a ploy to gag the media. So if this bill finally gets into law, what's going to be the outcome? What's going to be, how will the international space view us? That's one. Secondly, we know that we live in a country where we really do not obey the rule of law. We have people who the judiciary has said that they should be released, but then the federal government isn't listening. What's the guarantee that this law will not be used for people who oppose the incumbents, the power that be?
The right to freedom of speech in itself has left the realm of a convention in Nigeria, has become a constitutional issue. So freedom of speech is guaranteed under our constitution. You have a right to freedom of expression. That is why you are seated here today. You are running this show. You are expressing your ideas, how it affects nation building and all of that. You can hold media space and all of that. You register NCC, takes control to ensure that you play within the rules. So that is not gagging. The use of social media is not, those are unconventional media space, because I can create my own media space right there in my bedroom and I run it. I'm not accountable to NCC. I'm not accountable to anybody. I don't need a license to run my Facebook page or Twitter handle and all of that. So I want us to disabuse the mind of Nigerians that the attempt to control social media is an attempt to gag the freedom of expression. Completely out of it for me. And that is why I am opposed to the death penalty sentence. As a lawyer, I don't advocate death penalty. So we can move on from there. But the use of that, if you look at the content of the law, is not to protect those in government. I beg to disagree. Whoever has taken time to read that bill will not say that it's going to be used by those in government. It says if you say anything against my tribe, against my race that lead to the death of another person, you should be responsible.
So
I've read that bill. There's nowhere where government is mentioned.
protected.
So I want us to be, let us discuss issues. Let us not play on sentiments. I think that we should assist the National Assembly to come up with a better legislation that can protect all of us. I have been assaulted on social media, and a lot of people are being assaulted on a regular basis. People are being...
Cyberbullying.
Cyberbullying is there. Indoctrination into an extremist group on social media is taking place that is causing serious crisis for the entire world today. Even the owner of Facebook admitted before the US Congress that there is now the need to control
what is
the
going
use
on there
of social media. So we just want to live in the dark ages and experience the comfort of the new age. It doesn't work.
We agree on many things. However, one of the things that I and many others have found wanting in this is it's undefinable. It's a bit loose. What do we define as a statement against your people? How do we define this hate speech? How do we define the abuse of social media? How do we what are the words? Can we create a dictionary of words that will say if this word is used in any form around this thing, then you can be liable for saying something wrong? Because my innocent statement can be misconstrued by someone else who is being malicious or whatever to be in to be hate speech, and the person will now take me up on what I said.
There's a thin line between freedom of expression.
Yeah. So how do we define
for example,
what is right?
The example Nima said, all the people are stingy. I hate Tokwe because she's stingy.
Yes.
Now, is that hate speech? If that could be if it leads to somebody's death.
No,
so
that's a good example.
How do we define what hate speech is?
What you must understand in lawmaking is that no matter how excellent a piece of legislation is, it cannot provide for every situation.
Okay.
So that is why you have the courts of law, because in even dealing with those issues, even when you have committed murder, the court wants to look at your intention, the court wants to look at your disposition, the court wants to look at the operating milieu as at the time that event occurred. It is those factors that will play into defining your act, as situating it between whether it is a murder or a manslaughter, or in the US they say involuntary manslaughter. So we cannot sit down and assume that everything will be complete, and you can't sit down in your house and be the lawmaker, the judge, the prosecutor, and the whatever. You can't be everything. So let's leave those roles to the court. We can empower the court. The court can take a look at it. It is when you sit as a judge. I am not a judge, so I will not be able to tell you that, look, if this comes before me, this will be my judgment on what hate speech is. But to the extent that there is an attempt to undermine the human person of the other party, then we should be concerned about it.
I'm feeling your optimism. I feel your optimism, but it's just that, like BC said, in the country where Nigeria, the rule of law is not being obeyed by the government, we all just have this.
So in all of this, Nigerians have said this is not the time, this is not what we need right now. What is the best time, now or later? I
disagree, because the social media is becoming a monster. It's a multi-trillion dollar industry, and we cannot leave it unregulated. This is the time, and if we must do it, we must all do it right.
We have to wrap up this one important tweet. Anybody? Okay, no. None? All right. That's all we can take on today's show. I hope you learned a lot as much as we have. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.